Okay, so here we are again, and I got something special for you. It's the Mcfarlane Superpowers Classic Bronze Age Batman. We're going to turn on the light since I got my light reconnected. I'd lent my laptop to my roommate for a little bit, and that's why I hadn't had the lamp for the past couple of videos. I actually had the laptop back a couple of days ago, but I just been too lazy to hook it back up. So this is the second Superpowers Batman that McFarlane has done. The first being this one, which this was made to more resemble the Jim Lee Hush Batman, and this is supposed to be more of a Bronze Age Batman, which of course is the Batman that was originally made in the Superpowers line. However, like with the Bronze Age Superman that they made, it's not a recreation of that original Batman. There are some differences. It's a different sculpt, and it has some differences in the paint apps. Although I feel like the colors of this one are pretty accurate to the original. Now, I don't actually have a vintage Superpowers Batman, but I do have this, which was a scan that I bought off of Cults 3D a while back. And with my 3D printer, I made myself a Golden Age Batman. And one thing that I did, this one has in common, is I actually painted the black part onto the face, which the original Superpowers just had a solid blue cowl and did not paint the black shading onto the face. But I felt like since it was supposed to be a Golden Age version, that would give it more of that Golden Age feel. And you can see I went with like a darker gray on that one than the original Superpowers, and I gave them black trunks instead of blue trunks because, again, it just, to me, it just feels more Golden Age that way. Mego, you might recall, gave Batman black trunks even with a blue and gray outfit. So to me, that feels kind of natural. So I'm going to set him aside right now. So that's my 3 Superpowers Batman figures that I have. And man, I wish I thought to get it earlier, but my Batwing figure, the Superpowers Batwing that I have actually has one of my Keaton Batman figures in there, which is Iron Winch Batman. Of course, that being the Keaton that they colored to look like the comic book version. So he had like that kind of dark blue, like that kind of Adam West sort of blue. So and then a gray that was actually not too dissimilar from this shade of gray. But anyway, let's have a look at the packaging real quick. So it's typical McFarlane Superpowers packaging. Got the modern DC logo on there, which I think still works pretty well considering how that modern DC logo has a bit of an old school feel to it. It feels like the one they used in the early 70s to me. Got some cross-cell artwork on the back with some new figures added to it, obviously, since we have new figures in this line, this being one of them. So here we have Superman, Darkseid, Hush Batman, Green Lantern, that's Sean Stewart, The Flash, which is allegedly Barry Allen, but for my purposes, I use that one for Wally West. I use my vintage Flash for Barry Allen. The Batman Who Laughs, who should never exist in this line. I might buy him since he's being clearanced out right now. And I do want to make that Merlin figure I was talking about. Got the modern Wonder Woman and the Bronze Age Wonder Woman, which are basically the same figure but repainted. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to get this Wonder Woman yet. Got the Tim Drake Robin, which I ordered. It's on the way. Hopefully should be here sometime next week. Got Batman, the one we're reviewing today. Got Black Manta, who apparently was the first one to sell out. Probably because, again, this is one that would fit in really well with your vintage Superpowers figures. So if you don't even really want to buy the new characters, he's one like say with Deathstroke, where you're like, well, he looks just fine with my older toys. Got the Aquaman with the longer hair and the beard. Not that you can tell in this pic, it's so small. Deathstroke that I already mentioned, and Nightwing. So no surprise that this is a pretty Batman-heavy line. There are 14 figures, and out of the 14 figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So well over a third of these characters are Batman characters. Deathstroke is at least Batman adjacent because he's the arch enemy of a former Robin. And so mostly Batman. Like I said, the vehicles are the best part of this line, and most of the vehicles obviously are going to be Batman vehicles because the dude's got a lot of vehicles. So here we only have 2 vehicles on the back of this cross-sell artwork with the new McFarlane Batmobile and the Invisible Jet. The Invisible Jet is the one I'm most excited about, and hopefully I'll be able to pick that up sometime soon. I'll probably still buy this Batmobile, but I have the original Superpowers Batmobile, and I don't think that this is probably going to be superior to that one. All right, so let's go ahead and read the bio on the back. This is, I'm pretty sure, the same bio that's on all the McFarlane Batman stuff, but we're going to read it again anyway. It's a pretty good bio. As a child, Bruce Wayne watched as his parents were brutally killed in Gotham City's crime alley. Traumatized by their deaths, he devoted his life to becoming the world's greatest weapon against crime, the Batman. So, yeah. And then the artwork is, of course, the same artwork that was on that vintage figure by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Most of the artwork on those vintage cards came from the style guide that he put together. And the ones that weren't were like Jack Kirby did some, especially for his characters. And I think some other Bronze Age era artists might have done some. But usually if they were able to fit within this, and I mean this in the best possible way, this kind of vanilla style of drawing these characters. Garcia Lopez basically was like the median of how to draw DC superheroes at that time. So yeah, that was the model you were supposed to adhere to. That was what you saw on most of your merchandise. You know, like birthday party plates and napkins and T-shirts and stickers, all that kind of stuff. Basically, used the art from Garcia Lopez style guide, and the figures themselves were supposed to capture that feel. Although I kind of feel like the vintage Batman, and we can tell by looking at the sculpt, even though, like I said, this is a custom, it did capture a lot of that Garcia Lopez feel, I think, but he's got like that big square jaw, that ridiculously square jaw that reminds me a lot of Dick Sprang's artwork. So it's kind of almost like a mashup between Garcia Lopez and Dick Sprang, which is why I thought like it would work really well with very little modification. I didn't resculpt the head at all. The ears technically are a little long for like a Golden Age Batman, like I was going for, but I was able to find a Golden Age Batman emblem on Thingiverse and print it out and stick it on his chest. So I was pretty happy with how that turned out. But we're not here to talk about my custom. We're here to talk about this guy. So let's go ahead and open him up. And one thing I wish they had it done differently with the packaging on this is that the original Superpowers packaging, you could cut out the card on the back and have them kind of like the file cards in G.I. Joe. And on the reverse side, they have another piece of artwork with the characters. So it would look like a big trading card. But of course, if you did that with these, which you could still do, it would just be like the same kind of action figure background on all of them. So right away, a difference that I noticed between these and a lot of the previous Superpowers figures that have had capes in the McFarlane line is that they have greatly improved the type of fabric they use on the cape. Now, this is not 100% match with the type of fabric that they used on Superpowers capes back then. This is actually kind of a spandex, it feels like. But it is much better than that Christmas ribbon type fabric that they were having on the where did I put that push button? Here he is. This kind of stuff, it's really stiff and doesn't fit in the vehicles really well. But this kind of fabric will fit much better in the vehicles, and it will fold around the figures as they sit in the seats. And also, they got rid of that stupid tab that they had punched through the cape on those previous figures. I forgot to mention that with the Wonder Woman figure that I just opened, but it was indeed the case. Now, they do have it through a hole in the back of the package, and that wound up pulling the cape off of the figure when I took him out of the package. But that's okay. We can put it right back on him. That'll give us a chance to get a good look at this Batman figure. And there we go. There's the back. And it does appear to be much like with the Hush Batman and with the first Superman they put out. This belt is actually a separate piece, probably so they can swap the belts around. Now, I'd theorized when this one came out that they could probably just, put a different belt onto this one to make it a Bronze Age Batman. But that does not appear to be the case. This is a different sculpt entirely from the Hush version of Batman. So we're going to take his cape off so we can have a little bit of a better look at it. And to my eyes, at least, the Hush version looks a bit bulkier, a bit more sort of Frank Miller, which, it's based off of Jim Lee artwork, but, frankly, Frank Miller's Batman was a big influence for Jim Lee's Batman. So they're kind of cut from the same cloth. It makes sense that Batman, based on Jim Lee art, would be a little more bulky than this one, which would have been more of the Neil Adams school. Garcia Lopez very much drew drew his Batman in the style of Neil Adams. Yeah, the new cape fabric, I very much approve of it. Common Rider, thanks for pointing that out. And it's got a little bit of stretchiness to it. Like I said, it's not 100% the fabric that they would have used back in the 80s, but it's probably about as close as they could get. And I like it. It's good. It's good fabric. Definitely an improvement over that kind of Christmas ribbon fabric they had in the earlier ones. I don't like those so much. So, but yeah, this is an entirely new sculpt, and this one I think is much more faithful to the original superpowers, which makes sense because it's supposed to be the one of that era. And they did do some things differently that we're going to compare. But yeah, so this is the one that I 3D printed that was based on the original. And you can tell that they were, look at the way that like on his left fist, it's kind of cocked slightly out that way. Like little details like that. So I don't know if maybe they just 100% scanned this in and copied it that way. It doesn't look to be, because I know this is a scan that's supposed to be about 100%. And definitely the head sculpts are different. You can tell that they gave it like slightly longer ears and kind of elongated the face a little bit more. So like I said, this one to me almost felt like it was with the original head sculpt, like it was kind of a cross between the Garcia Lopez artwork and the Dick Sprang kind of Batman. But this one seems like they were trying to make it more sort of pure Bronze Age Batman. So it's a good head sculpt. I like it. It's in addition to being like slightly longer this way, it looks like it's got a little bit of a smirk to it that I like, So the colors are really good. They match up really well with, at least as I remember, the original Superpowers Batman is having. The only difference being that they painted in the black shading on the face to match the way it was drawn in the comic book. Now, I'll put the cape back on to Hush Batman real quick. We're going to talk about this cape some. And something I hadn't really noticed about these capes previously that I'm noticing as more I look at them is they're not sewn on to the clips exactly right. And it wasn't really that noticeable to me on these early Superpowers capes as it is on the later ones. On this one, it's like really noticeable to me. But you see how there's like all this extra fabric here? Well, on the original ones, this would have been folded in this way first and then sewn across the bottom. So really the cape should look more like this. I'm just going to kind of try to fold it in a little bit as I clip it back around his neck. And hopefully I can get it to at least look correct. So if you want it to look right, probably the easiest way you're going to be able to display this on your shelf is kind of take the cape off. It's probably going to come off when you take it out of the package anyway. And then fold in those corners underneath the cape itself. and I think that makes it look much more authentic in terms of looking like the original Superpowers cape. Now, if you want something a little more permanent, you might try to match that color in the thread and stitch it a little bit yourself. Just do a little bit of hand stitching there. Pretty simple. But that's if you want a more permanent solution to that. If you don't want to do anything to permanently alter the figure, I think just kind of folding it under like that works fine. It's probably going to kind of come loose if you're messing around with it too much, like I'm doing right now. But for the most part, I think that yeah, if you fold it under like that, it does make it look a little more authentic, and that might be able to placate anybody who is too much of a purist as far as the cape goes. So as far as the articulation, you got your simple, basic 80s superhero action figure articulation. Head rotates all the way around. Arms rotate all the way around. It's a simple joint. That's all you get. No elbows, no wrists. That's all it does. His leg looks up about that far, not quite 90 degrees. Can go back actually quite a bit further, as unnatural as that is. And then, of course, the knee bends about 90 degrees. So another difference you would notice if you're attentive to your Superpowers figures is you can see the pin here, whereas opposed to the Superpowers figures were pinless, because it was kind of, the thighs were two pieces of plastic that kind of sandwiched together, and they were able to put the pin on the inside of it. But this is all just solid, the PVC plastic, like the slightly flexible plastic, like the same stuff they make the lower legs and the arms out of. So I'm very happy with how this figure turned out. This is honestly, and you know, Bronze Age Batman is probably my favorite iteration of the character. I would have rather had this one when they first started this line than the Hush Batman. But in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that they started off with the Hush Batman while they worked the kinks out as far as how to do this line, because like, this was a good first attempt at a Superpowers Batman, but this is the one where I kind of feel like they mostly nailed it. I mean, there's still a few bugs to work out. I think the cape being sewn in the proper way would have helped out with that a lot. I love the new cape fabric. This is excellent cape fabric. Mcfarlane, thumbs up on that. Thanks for fixing that. Go back and give us another Superman now that you've done that. Maybe make one a little more accurate to the vintage Superman figure. But I put the Wonder Woman cape on Superman. I think it actually looks better on him than the one he came with. But I'd still kind of like to have an improved Superman cape with maybe having an emblem that isn't so freaking gigantic on there would be another thing. But yeah, this Batman figure is great. This is exactly what I would have wanted out of a Superpowers Batman in the first place. And like I think I might like the head sculpt a little bit better on this one. I know that's going to be a controversial opinion, and people are going to be, how dare you how dare you besmirch the original Superpowers Batman by saying this one has a better head sculpt? But I think it might actually have a better head sculpt, at least in my opinion. And then, of course, I love the original Superpowers Batman. Don't get me wrong. I had no complaints about that one whatsoever. But this one, I kind of feel like it. Look at the way the ears sweep forward. Like it's kind of like how if you see the Bernie Wrightson, the way he drew Batman in his Swamp Thing appearance, it kind of has that sort of look to it. But you know, I see this Batman, and this is the guy that Neil Adams drew, the guy that Marshall Rogers drew. This is the Batman I grew up with, so I love it. And going back to the Nightfall Batman that Mcfarlane made, when I compare the gray on the suit, so you can see what I was talking about, or how that was a very Superpowers shade of gray. And well, I felt like it was a little light for the Nightfall Batman, and I kind of wish they had made it a little darker for that. I kind of feel like, not to toot my own horn, but that's like a perfect comic book Batman gray right there. I didn't mix that up or anything. That's just something that like the paint came that way. But you're not wanting to stand up anymore, are you? Okay, so. But especially with the darker blue, I think the darker gray would have worked better. But the same exact shade of gray on this guy looks perfect, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Oh, here's one other figure to compare it with. While I've got it handy, is the Adam West Mattel 3 3/4 inch figure, the Arkham Adam West. It's not like an actual Adam West. That's why he's so muscular. But you can see it's a very Adam West sort of gray too. It like. If anything, Adam West's gray is a little darker than than the Superpowers Batman. But yeah, you can get them on Amazon right now for like $10, which is retail price for these figures. And I highly recommend it. Even if you already have the Hush Batman, I feel like this is definitely an improvement as far as making a Superpowers figure go. Now this is still a good figure, I think. Like taken as its own merits, but this is a much more Superpowers figure, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I think I've said everything about this figure that needs to be said. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. I should be getting the Tim Drake Robin from Amazon very soon. That one's like I guess coming from a different source, so it's going to take a little bit longer. But I'm glad Batman showed up first because I'm really happy with how this Batman figure worked out. And I've got some more stuff coming. This is the other thing I got off of Amazon. They had this guy on sale for $5, and now you know what I'm going to do with the Jack Nicholson head. So we'll probably open him up tomorrow. Anyway, we will talk to you next time. Bye.